The Weaver's Web. The shadowed glade lay deep within the heart of the whispering woods, a place where even the bravest dared not tread. The ancient trees stood like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches knitting together to form a canopy so dense that sunlight barely pierced through. A perpetual twilight hung over the glade, and the air thrummed with an eerie stillness. This was the domain of the silent weaver, a figure shrouded in mystery, whose presence was felt more often than seen. Those who wandered too close spoke of an ethereal figure who wove threads of destiny as effortlessly as a spider spins its web. But tonight, the silence of the glade was broken. The weaver sat at the center of her lair, a hollowed tree whose roots spread like veins into the forest floor. Her fingers moved deftly, weaving strands of shimmering silk into a vast, glowing tapestry that hung in the air before her. Each thread pulsed faintly with life, a representation of the many souls who unknowingly walked the paths she guided. Her work was meticulous, her expression calm, yet behind her sharp, ageless eyes, there was a flicker of unease. Something was wrong. A single thread, dull and frayed, quivered in her tapestry. It belonged to a man named Aldrich, a humble farmer whose life had been unremarkable, until now. His thread trembled violently, threatening to unravel the delicate pattern she had spent centuries crafting. The weaver frowned, her slender hands pausing as she studied the thread. Aldrich was destined to inspire his village to rise against the encroaching darkness, to sow hope where despair had taken root. But something had shifted, something beyond her sight. With a deep breath, the weaver rose. Her long, dark cloak flowed like liquid shadow around her, and her hood concealed all but her piercing eyes. She reached out and touched the frayed thread, and in an instant the world around her dissolved. Aldrich knelt in the dirt, his hands trembling as he tried to gather the remnants of his ruined crops. A harsh wind howled across the fields, carrying with it the acrid scent of death. The blight had come suddenly, turning fertile land into barren waste. His neighbors had already fled, their hope withered alongside the harvest. Only Aldrich remained, a stubborn man clinging to a life that no longer seemed worth living. As he rose, his shoulders slumped under the weight of despair. A figure appeared at the edge of his field. She moved like a shadow, silent and graceful, her cloak billowing around her. Aldrich's hand went instinctively to the sickle at his belt, but something in her presence made him hesitate. She was not of this world. That much was clear. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice hoarse. The woman tilted her head, her eyes glinting with an otherworldly light. "A guide," she said softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves. "You stand at a crossroads, Aldrich. The choices you make now will shape not only your future, but the futures of many." He scoffed bitterly. "Choices? What choices? My land is dead, my neighbors have abandoned me, and I have nothing left to give." The weaver stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "You are more than this moment of despair. You were meant to lead, to inspire, but you have allowed fear to blind you." Aldrich's face darkened. "Meant to lead? I am a farmer, not a hero. Leave me to my misery." But the weaver did not leave. Instead, she raised a hand, and the world around them shimmered. The barren fields transformed into a tapestry of light and shadow, threads weaving and unweaving themselves in intricate patterns. Aldrich's breath caught as he saw his own thread, dull and frayed, tangled among countless others. "This is the web of destiny," the weaver said. "Every life is a thread, and every thread is part of a greater whole. When one falters, the others suffer. Your despair is not yours alone. It ripples outward, affecting those who might have found hope in your strength." Aldrich stared at the tapestry, his heart pounding. He saw the faces of his neighbors, their lives dim and flickering. He saw a child who might have grown strong under his guidance, now weak and forgotten. He saw the future he had abandoned and the futures of others who would suffer for his failure. "What can I do?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The weaver's eyes softened. "Choose to fight, not for glory, but for those who cannot fight for themselves. Take the first step, and the rest will follow." The next morning, Aldrich stood at the edge of his field, his sickle in hand. The blight remained, but his resolve had changed. He began clearing the dead crops, his movements steady and purposeful. His neighbors, drawn by the sight of his efforts, began to return one by one. Together they replanted the fields, their hope rekindled by Aldrich's quiet determination. The weaver watched from the shadows, her work complete. Aldrich's thread glowed faintly now, its frayed edges smoothing as it wove itself back into the tapestry. She allowed herself a rare smile, though it was tinged with weariness. Guiding others was her purpose, but it was also her burden, a burden she bore alone. As she turned to leave, the wind carried Aldrich's voice to her. "Thank you." She paused, her hood casting her face in shadow. "The thanks are not mine to take," she murmured. "The strength was always within you." And with that, the silent weaver vanished into the forest, her cloak blending seamlessly with the shadows. The tapestry of destiny remained, ever changing, its threads glowing brighter now as hope began to take root once more.